gas masks and hand grenades. Gas masks and hand grenades. Gas masks and hand grenades. Gas masks and hand grenades.
Hey, what is happening, YouTube? Gas masks and hand grenades here. I'm your host, Jeff. 2 times in one day, 3 times in the last 24 hours. I'm going crazy here. So, listen, man, we finally got this done here. We've got Mr. Kenny Cook from Ancients with us. And it was a little bit like giving birth. It took a little while. It was a little false start here and there, and then kind of happened. Unfortunately, I got sick. You had a gig to play, which was much more important than chatting with me. And you've had a lot going on. You've had albums to sign and stuff going out. I saw the pictures on your Instagram, bunches of orders. That's always a good thing, right?
Yeah. It was like a 14-hour day of packaging yesterday.
Oh yeah,
so it was
you or all the guys, everybody.
Well, no, like it. Because I live 4 hours from the coast now, where they all live. So they're all working and shit. And I drove down on, I guess, Wednesday night or Tuesday night. Sorry. Wednesday we kind of signed them all. And then Thursday, like I started. So a couple of the guys were sort of in and out. They were obviously working. So I was at our drummer Mike's place, and I got at it probably around 9, and we didn't finish until midnight last night.
Wow. So you're hard at it, but that's good. That's a good problem to have. It would be very bad if
for sure
you have to make that trip, right? So, but
it's a total good problem to have for sure. I just need to hone my skills a bit more, I think, on the whole packaging shipping department, right?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I have a shirt that I sell. Let me grab it. Hang on one second.
Cool.
Let me show you, just because I know who you're paying. So a couple months ago, a good friend of mine who's a monstrous fucking artist. He knows Adam Burke. He knows all those dudes. He has a show called Heavy Art Talk on YouTube, and he does all interviews with artists like major, Paolo Giardi, all the metal guys that you could think of. He hasn't got Travis yet, but he did the artwork for me here. I'm gonna blow.
Oh shit. Beauty.
So that's the I guess you'd call it the logo, the dragon with the. Check the detail on that shit, dude. I mean, just unreal. His name's Lee G at Heavy Art Talk. Then I had my friend do the back, the script and whatnot, the layout, and then he did the 2 little, the hand grenade and stuff. I sold a bunch of these initially, and it was, the biggest thing was, holy fuck, I just sold 7 shirts and it cost me $100 to send them. What? Do I have these priced right? That kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's like, God damn, man, it's not cheap. And the worst ones were, of course, I sent one, believe it or not, man, I sent one to Ireland. It was $21 shipping. I sent 2 to Vancouver area, BC. It was $17 just for shipping alone. Are you there?
I lost sound with you for some reason, man.
Can you hear me now? Oh, you're okay. Can you hear me now? No? Hold on. Kenny, leave and come back. Leave and come back. Go all the way out. Yeah. Uh-oh. We already got issues. Uh-oh. Yeah, technical difficulties, Ryan. Yeah, hey, AZ Mick, what's up, bud? not gonna have a big crowd tonight because Marty and those guys are doing their thing. So hopefully people will watch this later.
Okay.
How about now? How about now?
I got you. I got you now, man.
Don't know what happened
I
there.
don't know. I forgot to turn my phone off to disturb, and someone called me, and then everything. I
That's
tried
what
to
it
cancel
is.
it. And
Yeah, you got to put do not disturb on. Do you have that on?
I am, like I
You
say,
gotta
I'm
go
just
out.
like you. I have no idea.
It's old men trying to work technology is kind of what it is, right?
Yeah.
What you could do is if you want
Yeah, I
back,
think
you got it?
I think I've got it.
Okay. Can you still hear me?
Okay, let's
All right.
give that a shot. I got you.
All right, cool.
Sorry.
So yeah, I was saying that I sold like 8 shirts and went to the post office one day a couple 2 months ago, and it was literally like $80
Yeah.
to send this shit. I'm like, what? And as I started to say, I sent one to Ireland for $21 shipping. I cut him a deal on the shirt. I basically gave him the shirt, and then I sent 2 to Vancouver, like in BC. They were $17, which is like one you're
Holy
flying
shit.
across.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going across an ocean. Like, what the fuck? So, anyway, listen, let's get into
Canada.
this. Go ahead.
Yeah, Canada shipping is completely unbelievable. Like we sent a bunch of shit like down to Texas and Florida. And it was like $11.
Yeah.
And if we want to shipping to Vancouver for us was like $21, and we lived like half an hour away. It was completely.
That's insane.
Yeah, and like back east, like Canadian orders were like double for the shipping costs, and we literally live in the country. So figure that out.
Is the dollar to Canadian dollar not good right now? I gather it's not, right?
It never really is, huh? Yeah,
Okay.
Once in a blue moon. I don't really know. I haven't been paying much attention. I just let it fly.
I have a good buddy that lives up in McBride, I think it is. Way up north. And
gotcha.
I'm always hitting him up with, hey, dude, check it out, man. Amazon has this box set for, it's a crazy deal. Like I just got the Yes box set. Okay.
Oh, geez.
It was $54, vinyl, a Blu-ray, and 4 CDs, right? And not much of it, like there's an insert, but normally it was going for 90 something, and I got it for $52. And I hit him up, and he's like, "Dude, it's like 75 up here." So you never quite know, right? So, well, listen, man, we're here to talk about your brand new album, which comes out the 30th. Yeah. And 31st is Saturday. I'm going to a show that day. That's what I was thinking of. And I'm gonna bring up the album artwork here quick. We'll speak to that first.
Cool.
And we'll tell you about the name of the album, obviously. Here we go. Killer artwork by Adam Burke, man. So good. Nothing replaces the Go ahead.
He knocked it out of the park for us for sure. Like we had quite a good reaction, even when he just kind of sent the draft. It's like, yes.
Yeah, I love the
this.
The nebula coming off the sun sort of thing, like sunspot nebulas, and then you got this sort of like whatever moon landscape or something, and then this giant sand celestial star creature, man. Fucking killer, dude.
Yeah, he's unbelievable, especially with the space theme things. Like that's like one of the big reasons we chose him. And we just told him we want some of that in the art.
give us some of that evil space creature stuff, man. Yeah, he's amazing.
Totally.
Were you connected with him before? Had you worked with him before? Or was that your first time dealing with him?
First time dealing with him. Like the first 2 records, our good friend Allison Lilly, she did Heart of Oak and Voice of the Void. And she was kind of local, and super good friend of ours and amazing at what she does. But yeah, we just thought, after such a long hiatus, we wanted to maybe go a different direction, and aesthetic from the first two. So yeah, I just kind of was just like, I didn't really know how like prolific Adam was even at the time. Like I was kind of just like flipping through Instagram, like looking for artists that do cool things.
Right.
And it wasn't really till after like we contracted him to do the art that I kind of looked into it, and I was like, holy shit, he's got quite a catalog of
oh man,
covers
a lot
and artwork.
of bands. Yeah, he's like Paolo,
Yeah.
or was it Brad Moore that does the Worm stuff? I mean, he's kind of everywhere right now doing killer work. And I think the thing I love most about it is it's a painting. It's not a Photoshop thing. I do the Photoshop thing because I'm not an artist, for my thumbnails and stuff. I do the best I can, but these guys are true masters. Yeah.
Yeah, like he absolutely killed it. And we're super happy that he agreed to do it for us.
So you kind of already alluded to it. So let's jump into, and I hate to make you go over the same shit again, but that's kind of part of the drill when you do these interviews. Let's talk about why it took 8 years for there to be another album. Because you did, I believe, Voices of the Void was a pretty successful overall album in terms of the critical perception of it and how well it kind of got your name out there, as opposed to maybe the first album, which was the stepping stone. But there's this 8-year gap, and you've had some difficult struggles you've had to go through. Why don't you allude to some of that, and I'll pull this off here.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, right before Voice of the Void was recorded, like early, I think we were in the studio to record that in late 2015. So in February of 2015, my wife gave birth to our son. Okay. And 2 days after he was born, I had to take her to emergency because she was having heart failure, and it's this kind of rare sort of thing that happens to some postpartum women, right? So yeah, basically, like, we were at home with our son for 2 days, and then she would try and lay down and was becoming short of breath.
Right.
So yeah, took her to the emergency room, and then from then spent almost 2 months in the hospital. So
wow.
Her heart was failing. Yeah. So
Holy
they like rushed her to like intensive care. Like we're kind of from the outskirts of Vancouver, like an hour outside.
Okay.
So we started in the emergency room there, and then they shipped us to another hospital that was like half an hour away, and they couldn't really figure out what it was. So eventually they put us in an ambulance and then rushed us to Vancouver. So it was like this all kind of happened over like 36 hours, and there was like no sleep going on. It's like it was like a living nightmare almost, right?
Yeah, man.
And I think back to it, because it was, I was so sleep deprived, it seemed just like a blur. And it's like, we were like 30-year-old people at the time, right? So it's like something that, yeah, well, it just seemed kind of unbelievable. Like the doctors were like not certain whether she'd make it through, right? And that just seemed like baffling to me. It's like, one of the best days of your life 2 days before, followed by like the most horrible nightmare, right? So
the uncertainty, right?
Yeah. So without getting like too much further sort of into the detail of all that, like long story short is, we were kind of prepared and ready to record Voice of the Void, like after the due date of my son, and I believe we had studio time booked and everything. And then this happened. So yeah, I was like close to 2 months in a hospital before she was kind of able to get home. And even like when we did return home, like it was a long road of recovery for her, like a 5-year period until she kind of like, after all the checkups and medication and stuff, was like functioning like a normal person her age, right? So yeah, like I knew we still had the obligation like to do the second record. Like it had already been 3 years, I think, at the time. So we had most of the material done. We had studio time booked. So basically we went and we recorded the record in late 2015, and then it was sort of released a year after. So the hiatus, the biggest bulk of it resulted kind of from that, right? Like having a new son and a wife that was, you know,
very
not
sick,
having the best time, recovering, right?
Yeah, wow.
So yeah, Voice of the Void came out in October of 2016, and so I kind of, you know, I did as much as I possibly felt I could. Like I think we did 3 kind of brief tours, like one in Europe, one in Canada, and then we did some sort of Midwestern dates with Goat Horror, and then that was pretty much it. That was pretty much it for the album cycle. And as far as like, yeah, like writing sessions and getting together, just everything kind of seemed to be happening way more sparsely, just due to the fact that all this kind of chaos was going on, right?
Right.
So that is like the big bulk of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So kind of amidst all of that, like Chris Dick, our old guitar player, he left the band in 2017. So we replaced him with our current guitar player, Brock. He had also kind of filled in on some tours with us before that Chris couldn't make. So that was sort of an easy transition. So kind of that was another sort of hurdle, like just getting caught up, introducing a new band member, getting together. And then, yeah, we really were like kind of amped to start getting together again and start writing more often than we were. And then COVID hit like right then. So we had pretty much just started doing shows again. Like we played like the very end of January 2020, and like that we were just kind of ready to rev the engines up again. And yeah, like not even a couple weeks later, then COVID hit. So that was like another bunch of bullshit, right? So now that was like at least another couple of years.
Man, dude. Jesus.
Yeah, so it was kind of just like a snowball of things, right? And you know, we always like we never considered ourselves like disbanded. Like we were always in contact. We always knew we were like we were working on things. Like it wasn't like as regimented as it was. Like it was
right.
It would be like we get together like once every couple months, and then we'd kind of like we'd start writing some material, and then it would be like another month or a couple months again. So then we're kind of like rehashing
playing catch up. Yeah, you're playing catch up.
Yeah, so it's like we have a bunch of like these like 3/4 or 90% sort of finished songs from just like voice memo recordings from the jam room, right? Of like over this 3-year period, us like getting together like once a month or once every couple months, like when it was possible. So yeah, like there wasn't like a lack of material, like, but it was just, you know, the amount of time that you need to dedicate to like a project to see it to fruition just wasn't necessarily available, right? Given the circumstances. So yeah, so that basically is in a nutshell 8 years of craziness, right? That didn't involve much music making, right? Or much time to dedicate to it. So after that, like at the end of 2021, I actually moved from like the Fraser Valley, like close to Vancouver, and I moved like 4 hours away from all the guys. So I kind of like upgraded my technology for recording, like new computer and a new interface. And we had planned to kind of just start working on things remotely. And like, funny thing is, we've like tried to do it in the past. Like, I'd be like, our drummer Mike and we'd be working on riffs, and we'd save it to Logic or whatever at my place. And he was only like 45 minutes away, but I remember like just trying to send him the audio, and it was like a rainbow spinning for 2 days, and then it's like, error, your thing didn't work, right? So it was like,
it's like being in the old days.
Right?
Yeah, it's almost like,
yeah,
you probably won't remember this because you were a kid, but it's like being in the very early days of dial-up when you would go.
Oh, I remember letting her ring,
dude. Or like you'd go to download something off of like Shazam or LimeWire or something in 2001, 2002. And literally, it'd be 2 days that downloaded album.
Yeah, you go check it the next day.
Yeah, I never got into that because I was like, fuck this, man. I'll just go buy it. Like, by the time I wait for it to download, I could have driven to Philadelphia and back and bought it. You know, it's like, forget it. But yeah, exactly. Same. Well, you guys being out, you in particular being way out more in Eastern British Columbia, you're more in, I would assume, more in the sticks than when you were out near Vancouver, because you were near a giant metropolis at that point, within an hour, right?
Yeah. So like I would guess you would call it the country. Like I live, like the smallest town that I live in is like surrounded by a huge lake, or the town surrounds a huge lake, I should say, right? It's like kind of lake country. It's real beautiful, and like lots of mountains everywhere. Like, yeah, it's like 3.5, 4 hours away from Vancouver. So I'd say we're like mid-ish BC. Yeah, it goes quickly though. Like,
okay,
you know, it could be worse.
I had to drive out. I had to drive out in March for a medical appointment out to Pittsburgh, and that's about 4.5 hours, man. I went out and back all in the same day, and it was about a 22-hour trip all told. Man, I'm never doing that again. I'm never doing that again. They wanted me to come back out there to have tests done. I said, if you can't find the tests in Philly, Baltimore, I'm only an hour from Baltimore, an hour and 20 minutes from Philly, 3 hours from New York. I could actually get to New York quicker than I can get to Pittsburgh. I told the doctor out there, I said, if you can't figure out one place on the East Coast that I can go to, then fuck you guys. That's pretty much what I said. Because they were like, oh, we'll just, you know, you can travel back. I'm like, no, I can't travel back and forth. I've got some issues, and I'm not going to be able to do that. And I don't have, my oldest just today turned 29. So, you know, they're not, they have their own lives, and one of them lives in Nashville and the other does live around here, but she can't just get up and leave her job for a number of days to run me out there. So yeah, I get that's a long run. So how do you guys rehearse then? Or how do you, like, when you know you got a gig coming up, I guess you guys try to concentrate and everybody comes out and stays with you, or you go into town and stay, or how's that work?
Yeah, like with this band that we have right now, like we've had a couple members like replaced over time, but like what I was kind of getting to is like when I moved up here, it's when we started writing, and once I had this like new computer and stuff, it was like we had opened a project, and as soon as I like hit save, the other guys had it, and I was like, this can't be how easy this is, right? Like compared to what it was before. I was like, completely insane. So so basically what I'm getting to is like, the whole new record was written, at least the foundations, like all remotely. So it was just all we built everything. Yeah, well, we would start. We'd start the whole project.
So we know. Hey, hang on, just 1 second. We do have a little bit of a lag, so I'll try not to speak when you like. I'll try not to follow a question with a question. I'll allow you to answer it because we're running over each other. So go ahead. Sorry.
Gotcha. Yeah. So basically, what we would do is we'd start projects. So if I was like writing a new song or an idea, I would create sort of just a full project that I could then like send to a Dropbox, and the other guys could hit it, and the full project opens up for them. So like
Right.
our drummer Mike would just use like an electric kit and lay some beats down on sort of the tunes. And
Right.
basically, as far as like the foundations of the songs were all kind of shared that way for us to kind of get familiar with. And then obviously, when I would make the trip down there to our rehearsal space, we had an abundance of stuff to work on, and it was mainly just focusing on transitions or making sure things felt right live, because it's different if
Right.
you're just playing something into a song. Like
Sure.
you want everything to be kind of smooth out in the room for a live sense.
Right.
So yeah, it was all kind of crafted that way, just projects, and then I would go down for like a weekend, and we would just do like 2 10-hour jam days and kind of iron things out, right? So I think like comparative to like how we would do it in the old days, where it was like we'd go rehearse 3 nights a week after work, like an hour away,
Right.
and sometimes you would accomplish nothing, right? Just because you're burnt, or the juices just weren't flowing.
Sure.
Whereas
Right.
this way, like you could work on things whenever you felt inspired, or at 2 a.m. if you're bored,
Yep.
right? Your family's
Yep.
asleep. So I think it made a big difference in making it easier to not like have to stick to these like regimented rehearsal times, and just like everyone can find their own place to get the job done. And
Now,
yeah, it seemed to work great.
if I might interject a sec here. So we're talking about in creating the songs and creating demos, because then you go into the studio in Vancouver. Is that where the what's it called? Rain City?
Yeah, Rain City's in Vancouver.
Okay, so you go into there with these pretty well crafted demos that all 4 of you or all of you have had a hand in, and then you cut the tracks. Then do you cut everything new and fresh? Did you use any of the demo part? Everything's new and fresh. Okay.
Yeah, everything's new and fresh. Like we just basically we use the digital workstations for just kind of crafting the songs, and
Right.
just so everybody could be familiar with what they should be playing, like when we get together, right?
Right.
So it took a lot of the sitting
Rehearsal.
around showing,
Yeah.
like showing the other guitar player a riff for 2 hours,
Yeah,
while the
right,
drummer
right.
sits and plays fills.
Yeah.
You're
So
like,
it's way more productive, I would imagine, right? Like to your
yes.
liking. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Way more streamlined, and like I feel like as far as musicianship wise, like in chemistry, like the unit that we have now is like everybody can we just show up, and everyone's pretty much prepared. Like there might be a small little part that's like, what the hell are you doing there, kind of thing. But for the most part, like we can get through a full song without ever having been in the room and playing the song together before, which was unreal. Like I'd never been.
Huge. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then from there, it just makes everything a lot more streamlined. Like as far as, adding icing to the cake, right?
Right.
Like things happen in the jam room that wouldn't happen when you're just by yourself, right? So I'm not saying that writing completely separated is more beneficial, but I think like as far as like a band works, if you can have material to at least be prepared for, to work on, that then in turn kind of sparks other things from when you're in the room with the other guys, as opposed to kind of going there and being like, oh, okay, let's try and make something happen today.
Well,
right?
I think too, a good point to that is that, and maybe you'll agree with this, but you guys are all in your 30s or in that range, right? You're all guys that are working. You're not doing this for your living as yet. And so there, and maybe never, who knows, because the music industry is pretty tough for bands to, you know, like this, especially in metal. It's kind of hard to ascend that Cannibal or Opeth Masto sort of thing. But I think what probably is really beneficial is you guys all have family lives, girlfriends, wives, kids. You don't have to spend all this time traveling to rehearsals, teaching that guy that riff for 2 hours while the drummer's going, what did I even show up here for? You know, that kind of thing. And it really makes it really cool to go into the studio because you've got all your reference files to go back to. If you want to isolate guitars, isolate bass or vocals, where you can hone in on exactly what you need to do to make it so when you get in the studio, you're not blowing a shit ton of money. You're at it and you're getting it done.
Totally. That's like, you know, because on the last two albums, like, we never really made pre-production demos before. Like, we would write just in the jam room, and it was just like repetitiveness, and, you know, like, we would, as far as our demos would go, is I'd bring like a little digital kind of recording station that I had. Okay. And I basically had like 8 mic inputs, so I could just mic the room as we were playing the songs in the jam room, right? But there was no kind of,
you're getting rehearsal demos to work with, and then you can go, hey man, this part right here, we got to fix this. It's just a train wreck, or whatever the case may be. Yeah, that's cool.
But awesome. Yeah, like, we never, like, I don't think we ever had like the full records in those situations. It would just be kind of some random shit. But we kind of keep it in the noggin. So it made a big difference, like, being able to sort of, you know, listen back 1,000 times to something, or if something's bugging you, like, figure out a way to get around it. Yeah, that's right.
Hey, so I should mention, Jesse Gander was your sound engineer, producer. And man, this album just sounds super good, man. It's got I'm assuming it's all in Pro Tools or Logic or what? Yeah.
He used Pro Tools, yeah.
Okay, so, but you're using all analog amps, or are you using plugins at all, or are you using analog amp? A lot
all
of analog
amps, yeah.
Okay, and probably mostly analog effects, I would assume.
Yes, everything was pretty much analog, like, as far as like some digital delays. Like, I think maybe like vocal wise in that department,
compression and all that kind of stuff. Sure.
Yeah, like, as far as maybe some delays and shit like that. But yeah, as far as the instrumentation, everything was analog. So I think we used like three main heads on the whole record. Jesse has like
what'd you use?
Well, first and foremost, we used an orange Rockerverb 100 for lots of sections. Lots of the guitars were a Diesel VH4, which is an unbelievable amplifier, actually. Like, I'd never played through one before, but he had it at the studio.
Yeah, I've never played one of those either. I've heard good things,
Yeah, like, the logo kind of looks a little suspect, but and the design of it.
It's German, right? They're German amps.
I think so. Yeah. But the sound of it, like, I've never really heard a more versatile amp than that, as far as like the clean sound and the gain. Like, they have it all in those amps. Like, it's
2-channel, 3-channel, or 2-channel.
It's actually a 4-channel, but I think we use channels 1 and 3 as far as I know. Clean, so 1 was for all the cleans. Yeah.
Yep.
And then the other amp Brock used quite a bit was the Soldano 100. The SLO 100.
Oof.
Yeah. Man, so the combination of those 3 amps, I think, turned out really great for this album.
What do you normally use? What's your live amp? I didn't know. You use a Marshall, or what are you using?
Yeah, I kind of mix between a couple. I have like an orange.
Yep.
Orange Rocker Verb, and Marshall JVM actually is what I've been
The JVM.
using as well. Yeah, it's kind of like I was saying before. It's very versatile. Like the cleans on it are passable. Like sometimes they're just stale sounding, right? And without having to lug different amps around, it was just something that I found that could, rip your face off when you wanted it to, but also clean up really nicely. So yeah, like those kind of 2 amps of what I've been using for a while. I did just grab one of those quad Cortexes though.
I know. So I feel bad. I spent a bunch of your money.
Yeah.
I feel bad. What can I influence you to buy tonight, Kenny? What can I talk you into tonight?
Anything. Yeah, I've been on the fence for a while. Because I do use the plugins like I say, when we're making demos.
Recording.
I've actually used some of the Neural DSP ones for the last couple of years. So that was, a big reason for me sort of leaning towards that way. Like I knew eventually I wanted to at least try and make the switch. And as far as on the new record, there's some effects there that we use that I don't own that are pretty important in certain parts.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping to, find something that works as well that I don't have to go spend $500 on a pedal for one song, right?
Yeah, I think the biggest problem with
it's.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying it's when you have say a phaser in one song but nowhere else in your discography to have to go buy a $500 pedal for one song, just seems crazy.
Well, you'll be able to find all that stuff on the quad. There's no doubt about that. I think the biggest problem with the quad is if you're a guy like me who's not a real tech dude, when it comes to guitar signal chain stuff, I don't know why. I'm just kind of dense that way. I know what I like. I know what I like to hear, and I generally can work it out. But the biggest problem with the quad for me has just been trying to just understand the massive amount. And it's very user-friendly, but there's so much going on. And then, you can do your own impulse responses and pretty much can your amps right there in the box, so you don't ever have to carry your amp heads around anymore. I think the only biggest problem I have with it, my friend Derek Vella, I don't know if you know who that is from Tomb Mold. Do you know Tomb Mold?
I know the band. I don't know him personally though. But yeah,
so
band.
Derek's a good buddy of mine, and he made the switch. They did a tour this summer with Horrendous, and they, his other guitar player, Payson, was using, I believe, a Marshall or a Recto. I can't remember. It might have been a Mace. I can't remember what he was using. But the only problem I kind of, and actually Derek was using it as a preamp. He was using it into a cab. But it just, it didn't have the balls that you get with hot glass. You know what I mean? I've heard people call it that, hot glass is and it really is hard to replicate that.
Yeah.
Unless you're in there and you feel that fucking air just punching you in the face. You know what I mean? It's a different vibe. You kind of got to get used to that slight change. Now that can be tweaked by a really good sound guy that's on the board, but I mean, there's a little bit of a difference there. That's the only thing I guess I would say is kind of the learning curve with it. But the nice thing with the quads now is they're finally integrating their plugins. So the Gojira, the Pliny, the I have the John Petrucci and the Mesa 2 Mark C, and now I have the Gojira. And you could only use them on your laptop. You couldn't use them on the box. Now you can use the Gojira and the Pliny, I think, and they're slowly going to integrate all the other archetypes, the Tosins and the Nollies and all that stuff. You can start to introduce them to your box and just play what you're hearing on your laptop, which would be super cool. So, but
totally. Yeah, I've yet to even plug it into a power amp yet. That's what I plan on doing eventually. And even I say, if I eventually just kind of have to use it for some sounds, right?
Oh yeah.
And still kind of like I haven't figured out exactly what I want. Like I've had it for a week and I've had about an hour to spend on it, right?
Yeah, it's like
I've just been crazy busy, right? So it's
sure.
It's
well, you had to shave,
planned,
you had to shave that giant beard off. That probably took at least 3 weeks, I'm guessing, right?
well, fuck. I was doing concrete in a pit and it was like 46 degrees. Yeah, and it's like I at the end of that day of work, I was like, you know what? Like, we don't have any shows coming up for a while. Like, I'm getting rid of this thing. And then yeah, we ended up getting called to play a show like short notice, like a week later, at that Loud as Hell festival, right?
Oh yeah, that was the one that you had to cancel on me to go do. How'd that go?
Yeah,
pretty
it
good.
was great.
Wait,
yeah,
was this the one with the storm that you had the bad storm at, or no? Oh
yeah.
Man, oh shit.
Yeah, our set got pushed back by I think 2.5, 3 hours or something. It was insane though. Yeah, there was like torrential rain like coming straight at the stage when a band was playing. I can't remember who it was, but everything was getting just doused. And then a big bolt of lightning struck like right behind the stage, and then they're just like, shut it down. Right?
Yeah, I bet. Were you headlining? Yeah. I think you did you headline that?
Yeah.
Nice.
On the Saturday night. Yeah.
Let's get into the album here because we're at 40 minutes. I want to try to keep you at an hour because you got shit to do. So let's talk about the album here. Dude, I'm not saying this because I don't do that kind of thing. If I like an album, I'll say I like an album. If I love an album, I'll say I love an album. This album right here is in contention with this band for the album of the year, Crip Sermon, who I fucking love. They're my dudes. And right now, this album, after Will got it to me, I've just been playing it endlessly. And when I got sick, of course, I wasn't listening to a lot of music because I was feeling fucking miserable. But I got rid of a bunch of emails, and one of them was the album. So this morning at like noon, I'm like, Will, I need another promo of the album. I got to go back. I got to make sure my notes are what I was actually thinking on each song. He's like, I don't know about that. I'm like, come on, man. He's like, wait, didn't you do the interview with Kenny? I'm like, no, man, we had to keep bouncing along, but hey, we're still doing it before the album comes out. So that's a good thing. But yeah, yeah, man, this is a fucking killer album. Start to finish. It is chock full of really good songs. Really big earworms, man. There's a ton of earworms on this album. Just parts that get stuck in your head, where you're like, oh man, that is so cool. How do you think it? And I always listen to guitar stuff thinking like a guitar player. I'm like, how do you come up with that cool little riff right there, or that riff right there is that's the punch in the face riff right there, that kind of stuff. So
yeah.
Couple quick notes. I'm going to get this out of the way. It is hard not to look at your influences, I'm guessing, as far as how the sound of the band is, but more so than that, kind of like the sound of your songs. So clearly there's an Opeth influence. It's literally impossible to deny, and I don't think you would. I don't think you ever would. There is a Mastodon influence for sure in there, without question. Particularly in the guitar playing, where you've got like a lot of arpeggiated riffs where it's not power chords or chordal stuff. It's more, I don't know if it was finger picked or flat picked or whether it was hybrid picking, but lots of cool Brent-isms. I like to call them Brent-isms because Brent likes to play that a lot with the hybrid picking. And then the biggest thing, dude, that I did not pick up on the second album that I really pick up on this album is, and I know you've heard it because I saw one other interview that brought it up. And this is a big compliment, not a detractor. It's crazy how much your clean voice sounds like, who am I going to say?
I don't know.
Not Mike Walker.
Right?
Not Mocker. Yeah. Michael Ockerfeld. Jerry Cantrell. Jerry Cantrell. Yeah. big time, man. And it's not, I don't say that to be like, dude, you're unoriginal. That's not it at all. There's tons of originality and amazing songs here. But your clean voice is so Jerry Cantrell, I had to go, wait, what? Holy shit. I didn't notice that before. That's a good problem to have, I think. So,
yeah, I think it changed a little bit on this album. Like, obviously, like as a vocalist, like I never sang in any sort of realm of a band until this band started, right? So,
right.
I think like the first couple albums, you're kind of just, you know, you don't quite know your voice yet. You kind of know what you want to hear. Whether you can achieve it or not all the time is another story. But
Right.
things that you go for, right? So I feel like on this record in particularly, like, because like my formative years were listening to bands like Alice in Chains and Soundgarden and Nirvana, right? And then I kind of like went away from that through my sort of teenage years and got more into kind of metal stuff, and you know, I kind of had lost it. And then like, yeah, recently in the last 5 years, it's maybe just based out of nostalgia or something, like I started going back and really getting back into those bands again, because you know, it'd been a while since I listened to like Dirt by Alice in Chains.
Sure.
And then you put it on, you're like, holy shit, like why haven't I been listening to this all along, right? So I think like that kind of had quite a bit of influence over this record. And maybe, you know, obviously nothing is ever intentional. Like when I'm writing something, I'm not like, oh, it has to sound like Alice in Chains. But I think it's you know, a mirror of what you're kind of into in the time period of what you're creating, right? So yeah, like all the stuff kind of that you listen to sort of at the time
always
ends up sort of finding a way into your songs. And obviously you hope it's not like a straight rip off of something that you've heard and you just don't notice, right?
Right.
But yeah, like I when somebody, like, no matter what, you have to compare one type of music or one thing with something else in 99% of the cases, just to get a generalization of, you know, what to expect or what other people can expect, right?
Yeah, and I think,
but yeah,
well, I was going to say,
go ahead.
I understand that it's kind of frustrating for the artist to go, oh, here we go. Here comes the Opeth comparisons. Here comes that, you know. But it's the way we communicate to other people what we're hearing, reference points, if anything. And that's really what these are, just reference points to a sound. Because later, and I'll get this in a minute, one of the tracks, the ending of Is It Your God, has a very Opethian vibe to it, but then the very end of it is like Jethro Tull meets Yes with like Leonard Skinner.
Uriah Heep?
Uriah Heep. Yes, Uriah Heep.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That last 2 minutes is so Uriah Heep. And you're like, fuck, this is good, man. So it's a credit to you guys that you wear your influences openly like we all do, but it's an honest sort of thing where you're crafting really good songs around those influences and how they may shape or move a particular track. And, you know, there's all kind of stuff in here. Like, for example, the opening to the one thing I also noticed about this album, maybe slightly more advanced than the last album, is there's a lot of what I hear as layering. There's a lot of layering of guitars and interweaving of guitars and melodies from the guitars, and then your vocal melodies, which I'm not saying they weren't on voices, but they seem to feel more texturally bigger, more advanced.
Yeah, like I think that was like a focal point, like going into the writing of this album, like because Voice of the Void, like it has a lot of variables and in and outs, but for the majority, it's like, how can we make crushing riff come after a crushing riff kind of idea. Whereas I think this record, I wanted to focus more on overall dynamic, right? So peaks and valleys and trying to make things intertwine throughout everything in a smoother way, if that makes sense. So yeah, like, lots of times we would add layers like that. If it's like a cleaner passage or something, just have an acoustic hidden underneath there with like a ghostly reverbs and stuff. And I think like the introduction to like the synths and the keys being more prominent in this record played a pretty big role in that as well.
That helps to lay that foundation underneath, where there's one or two tracks where you hear the synths kind of bursting through the mix to where they're actually prominent. One of the tracks here, I'll get to that in a second here. I think it's Candescence. Yeah, Candescence, which probably is my favorite track, and it's instrumental. But I love that. I love the fucking glacial feel of it. It's just got this icy coolness to the chord progressions and the arpeggiated riffs that you start with. And then you hear that little percolating pedal tone of the synth underneath. That's, and it's just a driving.
John Carpenter.
Yeah, there you go, John Carpenter. Yeah.
That was actually that's a Brock song.
Oh, is it? Okay.
So Brock kind of had that one laced right up and sent it to us. He's like, I don't know about this one, but it's like, what? Sounds fucking awesome, right?
Dude, I mean, there's not. Look, I'm just gonna say it straight up. There's really not one kind of mediocre track. Every track is either a fucking banger or exceptionally good. And one of the things you mentioned about trying to add layers and dynamics is that when you're not doing this in the context of a 3.5 or 4.5 minute song. Most of these songs, not all, there is there's a slate of 3 songs that on my digital download are all 408, which is kind of interesting. I don't know if that was intentional or just happened to happen, but I'll let you answer that in a sec. But when you start right off the bat, when you start the album off, the first track is kind of, I think it's kind of emblematic of the Forbidden Sanctuary. It's kind of emblematic of the whole entire album. It's got this cool, languid lead in that kind of is liquid and sort of gently sort of taking you in, and then that flanged riff comes in, that and you're just like, oh yeah, all right, just hit me more, man, just keep fucking punching me. And then the song it's very much roller coaster-ish in a lot of ways. But every song has a hook. Every song has a hook, and I think that's an important thing to say. Now all the death metal guys are like, fuck these guys, they have hooks, forget them. Get out of here. That's the reality. You're not going to go back to stuff if there's something not, I like weird dissonant metal, but I don't go back and listen to Portal albums very often. I listen to them once and go, all right, sounds like Portal. You know what I mean? That's kind of the way it is. Or even Gorguts, one of my favorite bands in the world is Gorguts, but they're not a sit down and listen to that album back to back to back to back to back. You need some space. You can do that with this album, and I think that's to its benefit overall. That's like that. So, real quick, did you want to comment on the 408 thing there?
That wasn't intentional. It was just kind of like the way the songs are placed on the record is partly just due to the songs that I started incorporating in the writing, right? So they kind of I picked them somewhat intentionally as far as sound-wise was concerned in the order that I started writing them. So with that in mind, I just felt that block of songs
worked well.
fit together well, and it kind of appeared in that section of the lyrical writing, right? So
okay,
that's kind of how that's sort of how they ended up where they did for this one.
And it works. I mean, sequentially, like going through this album, it really, it starts out with Forbidden Sanctuary, a banger. Probably my favorite, other than Candescence, which is just a groovy, fucking great anthemic sort of song. No lyrics, but you could almost envision it having lyrics if you had to, your own set of lyrics.
We're recording lyrics for it for a bonus.
Oh, are you? Oh, okay. That's going to be interesting. But I think my favorite 2 songs on the album, my favorite 3 are probably Is It Your God, Melt the Crown, which I think might be the best song on the album for me. I just think that ending section is so fucking killer. And In the Absence of Wisdom is a kind of a slow burn that really gets about midway through. Then it starts to really just, hit you with the haymakers. But again, this album is just, it's really well done, man. I mean, I think you should be exceptionally proud of this album. A couple quick notes on Is It Your God? Very Opethian, but in a good way. Again, depth and layers to the guitar. There's I mentioned the thing. I'm like, no shame in feeling like Mike, because your death growls are very reminiscent of Michael Ockerfeldt, who I honestly, Mike at his peak, nobody touched him, man. Nobody. I don't care who you are. Nobody touched that guy. I saw him probably 15 times back in the early 2000s, and it was, you just sat there going, how does he do this?
When I was first like learning how to sing like that I was just kind of discovering Opeth, right? So that could be a reason why in some spots, because like I was pretty late to the party with Opeth. Like, okay, I had friends in high school that were into them, but I had seen a couple things, and it's just like one of those situations where, for one reason or another, you don't like spend the time with them. And then later on, all of a sudden, the music clicked, right? I think Watershed was like the first full record I listened to, and then I went backwards through it, right? Like I was really late. I was really late to the game in that regard.
I came in on Blackwater Park because a good buddy of mine is Steven Wilson. I know I'm name dropping like an asshole here, but he is a good buddy of mine. We go back 25 years, and he was producing that album at the time. And it was funny because I was really into a band called Frontline Assembly and Skinny Puppy. You know those guys from Vancouver, obviously the OG, one of the OGs of industrial. And I turned Steve on to that stuff. And he tried, he sent, I don't remember exactly, I don't know if he sent me a promo of Blackwater Park, whatever it was, but I'm like, dude, man, that music is fucking otherworldly, but those vocals are awful. And he's like, wait a minute, you just sent me this guy from Frontline Assembly going, computer voice, and you love that, but you don't like this. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. He has a point. Like there was a bias in my head because I tried, again, I'm almost 60 years old. So I remember very definitively when Death came out, very definitively when Obituary came out, and trying these bands and going, man, the music is badass, but these vocals just suck. Well, now it's like I probably listen to 65, 75% more growled vocals than I do clean vocals. So you never know when you open yourself up to let the shit happen. You got to be open to it, and I wasn't, But a couple more quick notes here just to get your comment on Melt the Crown. That intro sequence of arpeggiated chords is so magical, man. It's just what a banger of a track you got. Here you can hear the piano stabs, little bits of piano interspersed in there, and there's a lot of building of tension building in that song. And then when it really unleashes, you go into that Middle Eastern, I'm going to guess it's Phrygian. It might be, harmonic minor. I'm not sure. I'm not a real super theory guy, so I don't know. I just guess. But that cool little Middle Eastern thing.
It's a minor scale with a major third.
Right. So there you go.
Major, minor. Yeah.
Major, minor. But man, so fucking good. And I think Cloak of the Vast and Black, very Mastodon, groovy, constantly active, killer drumming on that track. I mean, your drummer's really awesome. Cascading kind of rhythm riffs that churn and chug along, and then you get that sort of longing guitar work in the instrumental breakdown and the coda out. So these are all things like the key thing I keep coming away from this album is, for a death metal album or a progressive death metal album, I don't know how you like to be labeled, but I would say it's progressive death. It's a very cinematic album. It has that soundtracky quality to it, even though it's not really. And I know you said there's a sort of a loose thematic, sort of not so much a concept album, but sort of a loose theme. Go ahead and speak to all that stuff I just, threw on you there.
Yeah. So it's my first time kind of handling all of the lyric writing. Like Chris, who was in the band before, I always predominantly did most of the music. And then he was really good at kind of writing lyrics and coming up with stuff, right? So he did a lot of that. I did a little bit here and there for certain songs in the past. So this time was like my first time taking the bulk of it. So I generally just needed something to kick me in the ass, to give me ideas to write about. So I just came up with some sort of little short story about this space tyrant that comes down and turns this society or enslaves them, right? And they eventually escape through space and some crazy knowledge that they learn, right? So it's this wild sort of theme, but it's just all sort of masking things that were personal to me or situations that I've been in, but just told through some crazy sci-fi bullshit.
Nice. Well,
right.
It's a good thing you didn't make it a vampire, though, because then you'd be treading on Voivod territory just a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
The
totally.
Space vampire or whatever, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just kind of what I used as a vessel to have something to express other things, or a way to kind of bring it across. So it was definitely a learning curve, but I'm pretty happy with how everything turned out. And as far as fitting the melodies and the lyrics, it was quite a bit easier not having to take somebody else's lyrics and kind of crowbar them into your melodies.
Right.
This way I could sort of have the melody and write the lyrics to the melody, right? So it was
much simpler, yeah.
In some ways daunting, in other ways, easier. And as far as melt the crown, you were talking about, that was the first song that was completed for the album.
Oh, was it really?
That was kind of sitting. Yeah, before I moved away, I actually had that one demoed.
Now, when you do your
simmering,
before you, we were talking, to go back to the demo thing real quick, when you're creating something like this, I'm assuming a lot of the time it starts with a riff. You're just on the acoustic or the electric, and you're fucking around watching TV, or your wife went to bed and the kid's in bed, and you're like, all right, I'm going to go down and try to make something happen here. Now, would you then, in Logic, would you throw in, just fly in some drums so that you have guide? Okay. So you were actually creating the whole song. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but it's funny too with that song, because the intro of the song, we were kind of just listening through voice memos. Like I told you, we used to write songs. The intro for Melt the Crown was the start to a totally different song that has all different riffs, right? And they all kind of got scrapped, and I kind of kept that intro and wrote a new song past it, right? Or onto it after. So it's kind of funny, like every song is kind of different. Like I don't necessarily have a template as to, it might be easier in some regards, but yeah, it's just, kind of coming up with something that you don't forget easily. And I think that's kind of what makes me want to push further on something is if, you play something and then the next week at work, it pops in your head or you're humming it, right? And it's
right.
So I find like usually those are kind of ideas you want to hold on to as opposed to just some wanking that, you never think of again, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I know exactly where you're coming from. I find that a lot with my own tracks where I tend to almost write 90% of the stuff I do on acoustic. I always am a firm believer that if it sounds pretty good stripped down and bare on an acoustic, it's going to sound way better when you start loading multiple, whatever, guitars or harmonies on the guitar, all that stuff. It can all be achieved, but you got to have the bare bones of the skeleton have to be somewhat appealing to you for you to keep working on. Otherwise, you're like, yeah, this isn't something I'm into. But so I want to read you this real quick, and then we'll tie this up here. 1:15. So Candescence, like I said, I went through each track and kind of left some notes. For Celestial Time, I say some killer spiraling intertwined riffing that goes on for about 2 minutes. The last part of the song is viciously infectious. The torch, worth it for that hair-raising, lengthy scream. You let out that like it's like fuck yeah, man. And some almost, dare I say, bluesy southern rock mixed with metal, a little bit of Skynyrd in there. I heard a little bit of Skynyrd bluesy, soloing in that one section there. And then finally, go ahead. Let me do this one because I think I'll have to send it to you if your guy that wrote it wants to. Well, he can watch it back. But Candescence is an instrumental but a massive earworm. This intro with saturated delay, arpeggios, and the pedal tone synth figure is melody and earworms for days. Fucking killer. This could have easily been a 4-minute intro to a fucking massive epic prog 20-minute monster. Because I'm thinking like a prog nerd, right? When the heavy chugging riffs come in, that glacial and massive sounds like you're climbing fucking K2 in a loincloth ready to destroy the world. There you go. How do you like that? That was pretty badass, I think. So that's how it sounded.
It might be better than the song itself, right?
Well, I always have these like mental pictures of what songs and riffs do to me and how they inspire me to pick up my guitar. Like after I listened to this album before I got on with you, I'm plunking away going, oh man, you are rusty as fuck. You need to practice a lot tonight and the next couple of days. But it was, you know what I mean? It was that thing that makes me go, all right, I want to create now. Even if I'm not ever going to record it or if it doesn't become something, it made me really want to pick up a guitar and go, all right, I need to write something kind of like that. Doesn't have to be exactly, but I want to come up with a cool track that kind of has that vibe. So, dude, I think this is a killer album. I think it's going to do very well for you. I think as good as Voices was, and I'm not going to lie to you, I don't know the first album. I never got there. I'm not sure why. I will, I promise. And I will be grabbing a physical copy of this. Do you still have the special, the limited version, or did you sell out of it for you guys?
Well, we did for the first time, we did an artist exclusive variant.
Right.
And yeah, we pretty much sold out of all of them. We have some release shows coming up within the next month, so we held on to 50 of them.
Okay.
But yeah, we kind of had to shut it down because it would suck to kind of put a record release show on and have no records there.
I might have to talk to you privately about trying to sneak one to the side for me. Just saying. We'll see. But
yeah,
anyway. But man,
it's possible.
Congratulations on this album, Kenny. It's a great album. Your voice sounds fucking awesome on it. Again, the Jerry Cantrell comparison is nothing but an accolade. It is not a detraction at all. He's one of my favorite singers, so I would say that. And they're one of my favorite bands, so I would say that. Plus, the band you're wearing on your shirt there is my other favorite band of that era, with arguably the best singer ever, maybe. I'm not sure, but he's definitely – him and Lane, man. I mean, those two guys mean so fucking much to me, man. Chris Cornell's the only guy that died. Even Neil Peart dying, you know, I was pretty sad about it because Rush is my favorite band of all time, forever and ever will be. But, man, Chris Cornell dying hit me hard. About a day later, I was like, fuck, man, this is like, you know, welling up and just like, well, I don't even know. I met Chris twice, long time ago, but we had that fan interaction. Hey, he was super cool. And this is going way back to Loud Love. When they were promoting Loud Love, they were the middle band between Faith No More, who had just put out Real Thing and it hadn't exploded yet, and Voivod was the headliner of that show. And so
I've seen that poster.
I was there, man. I even got to sing the second verse of Astronomy Dominate because I had met Bill Gould, and then I was talking to Snake, and Snake was the only guy that could really speak English back then much. And I was like fanboying out, and I got pretty shit-faced. I was right up against the stage, and he pulled me up on stage, handed me the mic. I got to sing the second verse, then he kicked me in the ass out into the crowd. So, but man, Soundgarden was, oh God. And I saw Chris solo, and what an amazing singer. But Jerry ain't no slouch, man. That guy's great. And, you know, yes, there are Mastodonisms and Opethisms, but it's really good, man. It's well done. These are great songs. I hope you get out east, man. I hope you get out this way and can do some shows. What are the future plans, or don't you really have anything just yet? Is it wait and see what happens with the album and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, like we certainly plan. We will be coming to the East Coast for this record. When it is not set in stone yet. Like, we've got sort of a little Western Canada run with our friends in Bison coming up in October. And then, we're kind of working on the visa thing right now. And once that's settled, we're gonna kind of plan a full North America as soon as possible.
Dude, I'll be there for sure, without question. Again, in the comments to the description to the video today, I've got Facebook, Instagram, Bandcamp. I might not have put Season of Mist, but I will. And where do they buy the merch from you directly? Is that Bandcamp, right?
That's no, we're at ancients.net. So that's kind of our website.
You do have a web store. Okay, I will add that in because I think I might have missed that. I think I generally list Facebook.
Everything's sold out on it right now, though.
Is it really? That's great, dude. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
How's your wife doing now? Is she doing good?
Better than ever. Yeah, she's awesome. Yeah.
And I guess one of the things I was going to say earlier, as a dad myself to two kids, my ex-wife, sorry about that, Carrie. I know we've been divorced 10 years. But we had our second child, and she had some heart issues. It turns out it was thyroid related. There was I'll never forget. We were sitting on the couch, and she's like, I look over at her, and she just has this look of horror on her face. I'm like, what's going on? She's like, I can't catch my breath, and my heart is racing. I checked her heart rate. It was like 180 beats a minute. So, of course, we rushed to the ER. We went to the ER, and it had something to do with her thyroid levels were fucked up from the birth of our daughter Maddie, and you know, she didn't have as serious as an issue with you. It wasn't a 2-month hospital stay, but she did have to go on a thyroid medication to kind of get regulated, and then she was able to get off of it. But I will tell you, man, like, you know, I was Mr. Mom those first couple of weeks, and
Yeah.
you just don't know how much work that is and how much that takes out of you from band practice and writing music when you got a newborn, man, because it's nonstop, right?
Yeah.
So
It's go.
all right, brother. Well, listen, hang on one sec. I'm going to end here. You got anything, any final thoughts you want to throw out there about anything?
Just if you're watching this, give the record a chance and let it spin in your ears.
It's great. It's great. I wouldn't say that if I didn't feel that way. I mean, I'm very specific about who I interview on here. If I get something from a label and they start pushing it, I'm not into it. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to be able to add. Like, what can I say if I'm only mediocre on the album? So this is absolutely end of the year, album of the year stuff, dude. No joke. I can't promise it's going to be it, but I can say assuredly it's going to be a top 5 album for me. And
Thank
very
you, man.
well could be in that top spot. So we got to get you out east and see you do some shows out here. And I want to hear that roar in my face and all that good stuff. So Thank you, Kenny. Hang on one sec here. I'm going to just bear with me one moment here. Thanks, everybody that was here tonight. We were going up against Heavy Metallurgy tonight, which is a big sort of metal channel. They do like a topical discussion, and they always do stuff on Friday nights from 9 to 11. So some of my audience probably got yanked that direction, but I'm sure this will get a fair amount of eyes. The good news is I just interviewed Dan Swano earlier today. I'm sure you know who that is. Yeah, that guy. And that one was going crazy. So I'm hoping that, you know, you'll get some eyes because of just the periphery to Dan. So, but you deserve it, man. This is I think it's quite a step up from Voices. And Voices was a very, very, very good album. So you should be very proud. All you guys should be really proud of the work you put together here, man.
Well, thanks so much, man.
All right, brother. Hang on one sec. Everybody, peace out. Tomorrow night, we're doing a hang on Rick's channel, Dreadful Minutes. I don't know all about it yet, but it's theme of heat and summer. So we'll be pulling hot albums, I guess. I don't know what that exactly means. I don't know. Hot Blooded by Foreigner, maybe that would work. Also on Monday at 9:30, I've got Alex Books from Immolation coming in preparation for the Decibel 20th, which is next Saturday, a week from tomorrow. So, and I'll be at that. So, all right, hang on one sec, Kenny.
Cool.